Our next speaker is going to be Dr. Aimée Suprenant, Dean of the Graduate Studies. Dr. Suprenant is the Dean of Graduate Studies at Memorial University and a professor in the Psychology Department. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree from New York University and her Master's and PhD from Yale University. Her research is focused on perception, memory, and aging. Along with numerous scholarly articles, she is co-author of 2 books on human memory. She is a member of the Acoustical Society of America, the Canadian Acoustic Association, and the Canadian Society of Brain, Behavior, and Cognitive Science, and is a fellow of the Canadian Psychology Association and the Psychonomic Society. She has also served as the chair of the Scientific Affairs Committee for the Canadian Psychological Association and is active in Science Atlantic and the Canadian Society for Brain, Behavior, and Cognitive Science. Please join me welcoming Dr. Suprenant.
All right, thank you. Good morning, and I want to add my voice to Dr. Reynolds in welcoming you to Memorial University. I think you'll find a wealth of opportunities here, and I urge you to take the most of your time here, both within and without the classroom, the laboratory, and wherever your scholarship takes you. Before I start my presentation, I want to make sure to acknowledge Ashley Hurley and the rest for arranging our events today, as well as the GSU, our MUSEP student, Emma, all of the rest of the SGS staff who've chipped in whenever necessary. It's truly a team effort, so thank you. Graduate school is a time of great discovery, not just about your content area, but a lot about yourself. It's here you learn, sometimes for the first time, how resilient you can be when you're faced with challenges. Most of you out there have almost always been the smartest person in the room. And that's actually going to change. You're probably no longer the smartest person in the room. There's someone here who is, but chances are it's not you. And you're very used to being successful at everything that you try. Unfortunately, that's also very likely to change, and you'll have to work to overcome some challenges, and yes, even some failures. It's going to happen. You might have that paper rejected from the journal. You might not get that grant that you applied for, but this is a learning experience. It's going to help build your strengths and teach you again about how resilient you can be. Luckily for you, you're not alone in this journey towards pushing the limits of your abilities and seeking and gaining new knowledge and new paradigms, both for academics and for life. The university community is particularly well suited to advise, guide, and assist in this next phase of your life. Really, we've all been there. I've been a graduate student. There are all kinds of people who've had the same experiences that you've had. And so use their knowledge and experience in order to make your time better. So I have up on the screen a cartoon from Jorge Cham, who is a cartoonist who does a strip called PhD Comics. And I urge you all to look it up, and it's got some really fun things in it. And what this one is the Graduate School, the board game. And you might notice, and it's not a coincidence, and it's not an accident, that this is an infinity symbol. Okay. And he's got the board game going so that you can be there forever. And this is something that we in the School of Graduate Studies do not encourage. We would prefer for you to actually move along in your program. And so one of the things I want you to think about are ways in which you can make that not be an infinity symbol, but to make the most of your graduate school, but also to keep moving towards your goal. So we want to minimize the things that keep you going in that circle. Okay. So I have 4 different pieces of advice that I want to give you, and some of it will be echoed by other people later on today. Some of it's already been mentioned by Dr. Reynolds, but we need to keep emphasizing this idea about you as the driver of your education. You're no longer going to be having someone telling you what to do. You need to be the person in charge. And the first thing you need to do is to make a plan, be prepared to adjust, communicate, develop your skills, and take advantage of the resources that are available. So what's your plan? Well, I put together a little graphic. I'm a cognitive psychologist, and one of the things we do is problem solving and decision making. And one of the best ways to solve a big problem, like how to have a successful life, is to break it down into a series of smaller problems. And you've already done that, right? You've already decided you want to go to graduate school. You've made that plan. So now that you're here, what you need to do is to continue on with this planning. And I suggest that you do it explicitly, that you actually sit down one day, take a couple hours, assess where you are, what your skills, your values, and your interests are. Then develop some goals and actually physically write down a plan. Discuss this plan with your mentors, execute your plan, and then along the way, you're always going to have to revise and review. Now, there are lots of actual physical tools, or virtual tools, I guess, that you can use to do this. And I found one online. It's called My IDP, which is an individual development plan. And it's actually an online tool where you can go through and it will coach you through these steps. There are exercises that help you examine your skills, your interests, and your values. There's a tool for setting strategic goals, articles and resources, and there also is something where you can have them, the program will send you little queries. Did you write that grant proposal? That was due today, and the like. Now it's geared towards science careers, but in fact it's pretty general and could be applied to pretty much anyone. So try something like that or make up your own plan. When you're making a plan, what's important is setting a goal, starting with where you want to end up. Now that goal needs to be something that is very specific. And again, having a great life is our ultimate goal, I think, for everyone. But when you're writing a plan, it's a bit vague. So what you want to do is to have a specific goal. You want it to be measurable. You want to know when you get there. You should, of course, be able to attain it, given your skills and where you are. Should be relevant and time-bound. You should have a time frame. And I just went through and put together a little spreadsheet for myself of the sort of things that a plan might look like. And this is just off the top of my head. I broke things down into 3 different areas. There are academic goals, career advancement goals, and skill goals. And the academic goals are pretty easy. You can set forth to form a comprehensive committee, for example, start the process, apply for funding. And I really suggest that all of you try and find some funding opportunities that you can apply for. And you know, the money's nice. It's really nice to have money, but the experience and the professional development that you get in just putting together a proposal is actually really valuable. And particularly if you start trying to write a grant proposal right now, this week or next week, it will help you focus your first semester. And that's something that you really want to be doing, is focusing on what you're doing and what your goals are. If you're not eligible to apply for some grants and fellowships, there are lots of opportunities. The School of Graduate Studies has a list of, I don't know, maybe 100 fellowships and scholarships that you can apply for. And even if it's a small amount of money, if there's a little bit of prestige, you can put it on your CV. So I really urge you to apply for money. And again, it's not because of the money, although, again, that's nice. It's for the experience. Presenting at a conference is something that you all should aspire to do. You should get used to speaking in front of people. You should get used to presenting your ideas in a way that people who aren't specifically in your area can understand. You should have some career advancement goals. You should have some idea where you might want to go. And if that career advancement goal doesn't fit exactly in your academic program, you might need to go outside of your academic program to gain those skills. And there are lots of different supports within the university or outside of the university, and you should start thinking about using those sorts of things to broaden your possibilities. And finally, skill goals. I think all of you, and I'm going to be biased here, you should learn to program. You should learn to program something. It's a skill that all of us should have. I struggle with it myself, but and no one can talk to me when I'm programming because it's not a pretty sight. And I'm not a good programmer, but I do it. And so people in the humanities and social sciences have to learn to be able to deal with computers and computer programming, or maybe HTML coding or something like that. Work on your writing skills, presentation skills, etc. So that's the sort of idea that I have in mind for you to put together a plan, a specific plan with goals and outcomes. if you're in a course-based program, you also need a plan. The plan is a little less vague, it's very specific, but make sure you know what courses that you need to complete and when, in order to complete when you want to. Do your core courses first, and then work on your electives, and check with your department about, again, when these things are going to be scheduled, because sometimes courses aren't scheduled all of the time. And you should be planning for the end near the beginning. Now, of course, we all know the best laid plans are never going to go the way that we want them to. And so success is never a straight line. And it may seem like some of us who are up here and older have actually just progressed without any barriers or any setbacks. And it turns out that's completely untrue. I never in a million years, actually, thought I would be a dean of graduate studies. It wasn't a goal of mine from the beginning, but it turns out that it's something that I really wanted to do. And it's a long and winding road. And a lot of times, and if you look at these switchbacks, you end up having to move away from your goal before you get to it. So you're always moving, but sometimes you're moving in a direction that you didn't know that you were going to go. And so keep that in mind, that we can all have these goals, but sometimes the road leads us in a different way, and we just need to be able to adjust to that. The second thing, and this I think is probably the most important thing, is to communicate. Communicate with particularly your supervisor, if you're in a thesis-based program. The supervisor is going to be a very important person in your life, and you need to be able to communicate with that person effectively. And so it's no longer that your professors are going to give you a roadmap about where exactly you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing. You need to actually get that yourself, and to communicate and talk about the goals and your plans with your supervisor, and make sure that you're on the same page. You don't have to be friends with your supervisor, but you do have to get along with your supervisor. And it's a two-way street. When I was a postdoc, I was in my office one day, and a graduate student came running in, and he slammed the door, and he put his against the back of the door, and he said, "I'm hiding from Chuck." And Chuck was his supervisor. And I am totally not making this up. About 2 weeks later, Chuck comes in, slams the door, leans against the door and says, "I'm hiding from Ward." Ward was a student. That's not a very good relationship. It didn't work out very well, and it's not something that you want to have. Do not avoid your supervisor. Do not do things that make your supervisor avoid you. So communication with your supervisor is the most important thing. And again, having clear lines of communication, knowing what they expect of you and knowing what you expect of them, and having them know that. So you can even ask your supervisor, what's your supervisory style? What do you expect from me? My supervisory style is very hands-off. I don't care if a person's in the office at 9 o'clock every morning. I'm not going to go check to see if they're in the lab. As long as they get their work done, I'm not really bothered. In fact, I had a student who used to call me up and say, "Oh, I'm going to be 10 minutes late today." And I was like, I don't care. I don't want to know. But some of your supervisors do care, and for very good reasons. They may need to have you in the lab at certain times. They may need you to be around at certain times. So find out what that flexibility is, and if there is any, and make sure that you communicate with that person. Make sure that you talk about your timelines. Professors do not pay attention to timelines, okay? We don't think about deadlines, we don't think about paperwork, and we don't know how to do the paperwork, okay? So my student's always going to me, "Oh, so how do I form a comprehensive committee?" I'm like, I don't know, ask somebody else. Because I don't pay attention to that. And your supervisor isn't going to be looking at the calendar and saying, "You need to do this by this date." You need to take that responsibility on yourself, okay? This reminds me that the person who you want to be best friends with is the staff person in your department. The departmental secretary or the departmental admin person. Be good friends with that person, because that person knows all of the rules and will help you follow all of those rules. So make sure that you're very, very nice to that person, because they can help you a lot. They could also hinder you if you're really mean to them. So make sure that that is the person that you are good friends with. I always suck up to our departmental secretary just a little bit. She helps me a lot. So meet regularly with your supervisor, discuss expectations, roles, and responsibilities, become familiar with appropriate deadline dates and regulations, keep your supervisor informed about those, because again, they're not going to remember them. Discuss research and scholarship ideas, ask for guidance, keep apprised of professional development opportunities. In the School of Graduate Studies, we have something called the EDGE program, and it's got a bunch of different professional development opportunities that you can take a look at. I was going to list them, but there were too many of them, so go look them up on the website. Discuss and uphold standards of academic integrity, talk about authorship, intellectual property, how you're going to deal with those sorts of sticky issues. And if you have any conflicts, they should be addressed and resolved in a respectful manner. Every conflict can be an opportunity for learning. So successful supervision depends on a healthy and productive relationship between the supervisor, the graduate student, based on mutual respect and professionalism. You're now colleagues. But you also should communicate with your peers, the other people in your lab group, the other people in your classes, the other people in your programs, and in the Graduate Student Union. The School of Graduate Studies is a great place to communicate, be involved in the community, and take advantage of all of the opportunities that you have. This is a comprehensive university, and there's an amazing number of things that go on every single day. I'm always looking at the events line and trying to figure out which lecture I want to go to, et cetera. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these things, but you are developing skills that are transferable to a bunch of different disciplines. So you're learning your content area, and that is pretty much a given. But you're also along the way developing research skills, management skills, communication skills, leadership skills, and adaptability skills. And these are sorts of things that you should write down. I'm learning these things, and so you can put them on your CV. You can talk about them with potential employers or supervisors. These are the things that I can do that are general. So that's just a big list of possibilities. And again, as Dr. Reynolds said, and as I've been saying, is that you have a responsibility for managing your own graduate education. You need to take initiative and be tenacious. A quote from John Shear, the American futurist: "The future is not a place where we're going, but a place that we're making." Some specific advice. I couldn't resist with some specific advice. Treat graduate school like a job. Come in, work, sit in your office and actually work. Don't surf the web. And if you don't have anything to do, if you're sitting there bored, you're doing it wrong. Okay? And the first couple of days you'll be sitting in your office, or you'll be running around getting your IDs and trying to figure out your finances and good stuff like that. But then the second week you're sitting at your desk playing with the pencils, and you've got some office supplies. Ooh, sticky notes. That's fun, right? And you're just like, what am I supposed to do? Most of us have been going to school full-time, working full-time, running 100 miles a minute, and now you're just sitting in your office. What shall I do? And that turns out to be not a unusual experience, but you need to that sends a message that you're not being proactive. You're not trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. So I can have lots of suggestions. You could ask your supervisor. And we're academics, we love to be flattered. Can you give me your top 3 publications for me to read? And they'll be like, woot! They'll be pulling them down and saying, here, read this, read this. Or even, do you have a grant proposal, a recent grant proposal, so I can figure out where you're going, what your goals are right now. You can ask them to recommend, what are the top 5 papers that an educated person in my area should know? Because it just drives us crazy when someone replicates something that was done in 1963. Okay, so just ask about things. And once you're finished and your brain is full of academic stuff, try to find those professional development opportunities. Try and think about some sort of community involvement, et cetera. But if you're bored, like I said, you're doing it wrong. Now, we had a case a couple of years ago where a student laptop was stolen. And in the same bag with the laptop was his backup drive. And it had his thesis on it. And it really set him back a year. And I had a student who came to me one day and said, you know, you told me to back up my data, but you didn't tell me to back up my thesis. It's like, okay, well, back up your thesis, okay? Back up your presentations, back up your computer, back up all of the things, okay? And it's just, and you know, if you don't, what will happen is your computer will crash and someone will say, did you back that stuff up? And then you're just gonna have to slap them and then you'll go to jail, and it's not a good scene. So don't go to jail, back up your computer. Find something that you can be passionate about. And I am a true academic. I was, one of the great things about this position is I'm learning about all of these amazing programs that we have here at MUN that I didn't even know about. Ethnomusicology, what is that? How exciting is that? Really? You know, Kant and continental philosophy. Boy, that's kind of alliterative, isn't it? Oh, what a great program. Marine spatial planning and management, that's a new one that's really, really interesting. Condensed matter physics, I wonder what that's all about. But find something that you are passionate about and that you can be happy with as a career, not a job. And so there are possible combinations of all of the above. We have an interdisciplinary PhD program. You can do pretty much, you make your own education. Now, beware of the imposter syndrome. And all of us have been in this situation where we're sitting there going, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am completely at a loss. I don't have the skills to do this. I am sure that someone made a mistake and they meant to accept a different student and they accepted me, and it's a big mistake. And everyone around me is so much smarter and I can't possibly cope. Well, it turns out this is a very common thing, and ironically, it's something that you are much more susceptible to than the average person, because you're pushing yourself. You're putting yourself in a situation where you don't actually know everything. And so deliberately putting yourself in a place where you are, in fact, going to be a little bit discombobulated. You don't know everything about what you're going to be doing. So we all have this feeling that we really aren't qualified for this job at all, and that they kind of made a mistake, and I really don't think I should be standing up in front of 300 people talking about graduate school. I just started June 1, you know, and I'm still learning all of the details. And that someday someone will come along and take that mask away, and you'll be exposed for the fraud that you are, okay? Well, it's not gonna happen, because you're not frauds. You were not here by mistake. We very deliberately chose you and your skills and your knowledge and your experience to come to this university to contribute. So you are not an imposter. The imposter syndrome, what you think others know and what you know, but in fact the reality is that we all know something, and something about everything. You, if you're doing a thesis-based program in particular, are going to be actually an expert, the world's expert in that one area. So you're going to know more about something than everyone else. So there are lots of ways to counter the imposter syndrome: conduct a thorough self-evaluation, focus on your strengths, create and use social and professional support systems. Peers are best for this. Accomplish something you can be proud of, and dwell on that rather than the failures. And compare yourself to an internal standard. Where was I yesterday compared to today, rather than other people? And don't internalize criticism. As Dr. Reynolds said, we can build and learn from criticism. It's not that we're a bad person or a stupid person. It's that we just make mistakes, and it sometimes happens. And accept it as part of being human and how common it is. It's almost everyone has this. And if you don't, in fact, it's kind of a bad thing. So this is Dilbert. Dilbert is an engineer who lives, or works, he doesn't live there, works in a cubicle. And he goes to work every day and he knows exactly what he's supposed to be doing. He has to deal with a crazy boss and stuff like that, but he is in his cubicle working all day long, and he's bored. He finds it to be really, really dull. Don't be Dilbert, be Sheldon. Okay, not the social part of it. But Sheldon is just amazed and awed, and he wants to build a grand theory of everything. And that's where we want to go. But the problem with that is it opens you up a little bit to this imposter syndrome. Not Sheldon, because he doesn't have the capabilities of worrying about himself, but for the rest of us, that risk-taking does open us up to this feeling that we don't know everything. And it's true, you don't know everything, but you can learn it. You are awesome. You have the skills, the ability, and the knowledge to be successful in your program. Again, that's why we accepted you. There are a bunch of resources you should take advantage of. The School of Graduate Studies has an amazing amount of information on it. There's a Canadian Association of Graduate Studies. They've got studies and all kinds of things on how to, some are written by graduate students, some are written by faculty on graduate education. There are granting councils, etc. And you're not alone, and you're not expected to do everything alone. So if you're feeling some of these things, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling exhausted, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling hopeless, find some help. And do it soon, before it gets to be too much, okay? So we'd rather talk to you when you're just feeling a little stressed than deal with you in a crisis situation. So again, other people can help you cope with some of the stresses that are involved in graduate school. And we have outstanding faculty. Here are 4 winners of the President's Award for Outstanding Graduate Student Supervision. Dr. Schneider, Dr. Rankin, Faisal Khan, Alistair Bath, in a variety of different areas, a variety of different departments. These are all fabulous graduate supervisors. We have 9 faculty recipients of the 3M Teaching Fellowships, 13 Canada Research Chairs. There are over 100 graduate degree programs and certificates that we have at the university. So it's a really broad community, and you can rely on their expertise and their help. The other students, and I'm hoping to see some of your pictures up here soon. We have students who've won 3M Teaching Fellowships, the Shirk Talent Award, the only one given out in the country, was here, Kirk Luther in psychology. A Vanier Award, 2 students who won Vanier Awards for, they get $70,000 to go to graduate school. It's pretty good. No, maybe it's only 50. $70,000 is the postdoctoral fellowship. So you should apply for and push yourself to try and win these big awards for a lot of variety of reasons. We have some graduate students who are writing blogs about their experience. You can go and read and learn that your experiences are very similar to theirs. And we'll have some 5 new graduate students who will be joining the team in the fall. So just to give you some statistics about, to reassure you that you made the right choice in coming to do graduate work. In 2012, there were 44,000 master's degrees granted. And in 2012, there were over 6,000 doctoral degrees granted. These are increasing numbers. The average age of doctoral graduates at graduation is 35 years old. They take an average of 5 years and 9 months to complete. I'd like to get that average down for all of you. Work to get your programs done in a timely fashion. And graduate students have a significant impact on Canada's long-term economic prosperity. You contribute to innovation, productivity, and growth through research and educational activities. The majority of students are married at the time they receive their doctoral degree, and 36% have dependent children, and half of those who are married actually find a partner in graduate school, so your chances are pretty good. Now, married men show better outcomes in graduate school than single men. It doesn't seem to help the women. Sorry. So I'm not sure exactly why, but it's an interesting statistic. And doctoral graduate students, this is 2005, so it should be higher now, have a median income of $65,000. The average salary difference between master's and PhD graduates is only 7%. What you find with the difference between a bachelor's degree and a master's degree is that the difference just upon graduation is small, but it gets larger as time goes on. People with master's and above degrees get promoted faster and end up at a higher level than those with just a bachelor's degree. So although it may not be a huge bump, although it is a bump, but it may not be huge to begin with, it gets bigger as your career goes on. And there's some other things here. Oh, there we go. The largest earning gap exists between the bachelor's and master's levels, suggesting that investing in further postgraduate work is financially beneficial. The School of Graduate Studies is here to help, and the big picture there is Deneen Farquharson, who is here. She is our Associate Dean of the Graduate School, and let's see. So all of these people are people you should get to know. Ruby is in charge of theses. Andrew Kim is our manager of enrollment. This is Heather, who's involved in recruitment and retention. Ashley, you've already met. Annette, who is my assistant and the person that I suck up to all the time because she does everything. And this is Krista, who is also works with Annette. Carol is your manager of fellowship and awards, and so you'll get to know her quite well, as well as Katrina, who does grants and awards, and Gail, and Dawn and Sheldon and Kim, Sheridan and Kim, just to round out the group. So you should get to know all of those people and have them help you along the way. So we're going towards the finish line. I was asked to talk about a online program training you in sex and gender in biomedical research. CIHR is doing this, and so it's an online certificate program. You can take the course, and you get a certificate at the end if you're interested in that. And I think you got something in your packages about that, so you can read that. Soon we'll be giving you a cake for congratulations. And I did want to say good luck, but then I realized, no, it's not luck. It's not luck at all. It's the things that you are doing are making you successful, and you've made the correct choice, and luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Thank you.